People all over the planet have described unknown aerial craft for a very long time. This is nothing new to mankind. There are depictions of flying objects on cave walls dated to the prehistoric era. Famous paintings from the Middle Ages and the Renaissance period showed odd-looking objects hovering above or in the background of the featured subject of the painting. But for most people, they became aware of flying saucers as a result of the reported crash in New Mexico in 1941 near the town of Roswell. The nearby Air Force Base, which was home to the only nuclear bomb group at the time, responded to this and put out a well-known news report of recovering a flying disc, only to have that report reversed by a higher-ranking general, and the general public was told it was a weather balloon. Decades passed with no real hard evidence to substantiate the claims made by countless reputable individuals. In the 1950s, Hollywood jumped on the flying saucer bandwagon and produced many low-budget films centered around the flying saucer hysteria sweeping the nation at the time. But quietly, behind the scenes, the military was taking this subject very seriously. When you are tasked with the responsibility of protecting the citizens of a nation, and you have strange craft zipping around in the skies with impunity, and your best equipment is powerless to intercept these craft, that becomes a problem. Military programs were implemented to gather information from eyewitnesses, starting with Project Sign, then Project Grudge, and finally Project Blue Book. But the focus of these programs was primarily to dismiss the witness accounts and imply that the witnesses were not sound of mind, and this caused many a witness to stay silent with regards to encounters they had for fear of public ridicule. In the 1970s, a renewed interest in the subject began to gain ground with the release of films like Chariots of the Gods that propose theories that the Earth has been visited by extraterrestrial beings for millennia. But in the scientific community, they scoffed at these theories as they were counter to the etched-in-stone narrative of their particular niche within the scientific world. The very age of the Earth itself comes into question when you propose a theory that pushes back the timeline thousands and thousands of years. They all stood at their respective podiums and proclaimed mankind was no more than 4,000 years old, and there was no evidence to show anything other than that narrative. That all changed with the discovery of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, which pushed back the known timeline 12,000 years. But if this site is more than 12,000 years old, exactly when was it begun? And how far back does the human species really go? This is an ongoing debate, and the true answer may never be known. But it is safe to say that the world we live in is far older than that what we were taught in school by the bought and paid for history teacher that stood in the front of the classroom. But returning to the Roswell incident for a moment, that incident brought forth a new understanding by many people of the possibility of other forms of life elsewhere within the universe. This sort of thinking was not acceptable to the powers that be of bygone days, and many people were persecuted and burned at the stake because they spoke counter to the acceptable narrative set forth by the powerful church of the day. But even with these dire consequences to deal with, people are, and always have been, curious by nature. And if something is unknown, they want to understand it and make it known. And this open-minded thinking by mankind has brought forth many great positive advances to our society, many negative ones as well. The United States military has had a steadfast doctrine of denial when it comes to anything that flies around above us all. That storyline changed in 2017 when the New York Times released a story about a government program that catalogs UFO encounters, even though they had stated many times that with the closure of Project Blue Book back in the early 70s, no in-depth studies were being done by the government whatsoever. The now infamous Tic Tac video highlighted an encounter by naval aviators with a craft that had capabilities far beyond anything we could muster in our current arsenal. Flying, as we know it today, requires some form of propulsion, be that a piston engine churning a propeller or a jet engine providing thrust, along with wings to provide lift, and there are limits to what those machines can do. Not so with these Tic Tac craft, or with many of those cited by people over the years. They do not have any visible means of propulsion, they do not have wings, and they can perform maneuvers that would leave a human crushed by the massive G-forces encountered by lightning-fast changes in direction and altitude. The U.S. military and their supply contractors have attempted to create flying craft that are circular in design, but all of those relied on known propulsion mechanisms and were, by and large, quite unsuccessful. The Germans and the Nazi hierarchy are purported to have created several flying machines that were capable of defying gravity as we know it. And with Operation Paperclip at the end of World War II, many of those scientists were brought to America and were placed in various governmental agencies and played a major role in the development of aircraft and spacecraft here in America. But only a portion of those programs were known to the public, and many black projects exist that have created crafts that are far beyond what we commonly accept as possible. My recent zero-point energy and anti-gravity video highlighting the James Allen documentary is one example of these types of unknown programs that exist with the not seen by the public black projects within our government. The real tragedy is that these systems could provide all the needed power with none of the ill effects that we encounter with power production as it exists today, be it a dammed river to churn massive generators or a fuel-powered steam induction system that uses the power of the created steam to push the blades of the turbine that, in turn, turns the generator to produce the electricity we all need to survive in our modern world. There is a better way to do it, and we are all being denied this technology by whomever it is that is in control of that technology. These systems are far superior to wind or solar generated power, and I urge all of you to contact your representatives to have them bring this technology into the open so we can all reap the benefits of it.